Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We are actually going to audit your own brain. We're going to pull back the curtain and reveal the hidden psychological machinery behind the world's absolute most successful furniture brand, IKEA. See, this isn't just about flat pack furniture or quirky Swedish product names. We're talking about an absolute masterclass in human behavior. So I want you to think about the last thing you bought that actually felt genuinely yours. Not just some random thing you own, but something you are genuinely attached to. Do you have it in your head? Got it? Well, I am willing to bet it's something you had to work for. It's something you built, something you created, or maybe even something you had to struggle with just a little bit. And let me tell you, that is absolutely not a coincidence. Okay, let's really dive into this. Look, it might sound a bit like a conspiracy theory, but it's a reality. You are a test subject in an 80-year-long retail experiment. IKEA is not simply a furniture store. It is, in fact, the longest-running psychological experiment on human behavior in retail history. And you? Well, you've been a willing test subject every single time you've walked through those massive blue and yellow doors. Today, we're breaking down the global marketing psychology behind their entire empire and exactly why making you do all the hard work was the smartest thing they ever did. Section 1, the IKEA Effect, why you love what you built. Let's go ahead and peel back the very first layer of this experience, that famous, heavy, physical, flat-pack box. Back in 2011, researchers from Harvard and Duke University discovered a phenomenon that forever changed how we understand consumer behavior. They literally dubbed it the IKEA Effect. The core idea is simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It states that humans place a significantly higher value on things they partially create themselves. And the real kicker? They do this even when the final result is objectively of lower quality than a finished store-bought product. To prove this, the researchers set up a really clever study where participants were asked to fold their own simple origami. They then compared this amateur do-it-yourself origami group against another group of people who were simply handed identical but professionally made origami pieces. 5 times. The participants who made their own origami rated their pieces 5 times higher in value than the professionally made ones. 5 times. Why? Because, you see, effort creates ownership. Ownership creates attachment. And attachment creates loyalty. IKEA understood this psychological principle decades before those researchers ever published their study. When you buy that box, struggle with the little manual, and finally get that absolute last peg into place, you aren't looking at a bookshelf anymore. You're looking at your own achievement. Section 2, Designing the Maze, the architecture of disorientation. Let's see how this builds from the single product you take home to the actual physical environment of the store itself. Have you ever noticed how it's almost impossible to find a shortcut in an IKEA? You walk in and there is exactly one path, forward. This brings us to what's known as the Gruen Effect, named after the architect Victor Gruen. It perfectly describes what happens when a carefully designed retail space disorients shoppers just enough to make them completely forget why they walked in the door in the first place. That winding, endless path is not an accident. It's literally architecture functioning as a marketing strategy. I'm sure most of us can relate to this highly scientific 4-step process, right? You go in with a super clear, simple mission, just buy a candle holder. But then, the maze takes over. You lose your bearings, you walk through room after fully furnished room, and suddenly, you're leaving with new curtains, a potted plant, 3 storage boxes you definitely didn't know you needed, and a full stomach, which actually leads us right into step 3. So here is the absolute crucial point you need to understand. Swedish meatballs are not a meal. No, they are a retention strategy. Notice how IKEA's restaurant is placed exactly in the middle of the store. Not by the entrance, not near the exit, dead in the middle. When you're tired, you're hungry, and you're feeling overwhelmed by the maze, you sit down, you eat, you rest, you recharge. And because you feel comfortable again, what do? You get right back up, keep shopping, and keep spending. They engineer the whole shebang to keep you inside longer. Section 3. The psychology of price. Hacking your wise spending identity. Let's peel back another cognitive layer to see how IKEA doesn't just want you to buy, they want you to feel incredibly smart and rational while you do it. Now we're getting into some real precision psychology that's used to manipulate consumer logic. It's called anchor pricing. Sure, IKEA is known for affordable products, but they also stock premium, higher-priced items. By intentionally placing those expensive, top-tier items right next to the budget options, they artificially reset your internal perception of what something is actually worth.
Let's say you walk in with a strict budget of $150 for a bed frame, but then you see a $900 premium bed frame positioned right next to a $250 budget bed frame. Suddenly, that $250 frame feels like an absolute steal, right? It feels like an incredible deal by comparison. The $900 anchor entirely reset your brain. You end up spending $250, which, by the way, is $100 more than you planned to spend, but because of that anchor, you walk away feeling like you won. You're proving to yourself that you are a rational, budget-conscious person. They are literally selling you a self-image with every purchase.
Section 4, Democratic Design. Selling dignity and identity. This brings us to the deepest emotional driver of their success, their core philosophy. This right here is the emotional sell. IKEA's philosophy is that functional, beautiful design shouldn't just be reserved for the wealthy. It should be accessible to everyone. On the surface, sure, that sounds like a lovely corporate value, but psychologically, it is incredibly powerful. Telling a customer you deserve good design regardless of your income makes them feel seen. It isn't selling a table, it's selling dignity. It's selling the feeling that you belong in a nice home, that your space matters, and ultimately that you matter. That emotional connection is what separates brands you simply use from brands you love. To put into perspective just how successfully they broadcasted this emotional message, consider this staggering number. Up until 2021, IKEA printed nearly 200 million copies of their catalog every single year. Let that sink in for a second. That was more than the Bible. It was an absolutely unprecedented scale of aspirational marketing delivered right to your front door. Because, you see, the catalog was never just a product list. It was an aspirational dream. Most people flipping through those pages weren't actively planning a purchase. No, they were daydreaming. Years before Instagram or Pinterest were even a thing, every single page of that catalog sold a version of a life. A better morning routine, a cleaner, more productive workspace, a cozier, warmer Sunday. IKEA completely understood that before a customer ever buys your product, they have to be able to see themselves in it. They were creating desire, not just announcing that a new chair was available. Section 5. The core truth. The ultimate marketing lesson. Let's bring all of these psychological layers together. The flat pack assembly, the maze-like store layout, the anchor pricing, the aspirational catalog. It's all engineered around one singular ultimate marketing lesson. People don't buy products, they buy feelings. This is the core truth. IKEA didn't build a billion-dollar global empire by just selling wood and little screws. They built it by selling the feeling of achievement when you finish building that shelf, the feeling of belonging in a well-designed space, the feeling of being smart and frugal with your hard-earned money, the feeling of living the exact life that you want. Every single decision they make is engineered around producing one or more of those feelings in you, the customer. So that brings us to the end of this explainer, and I want to leave you with a final provocative question to consider. What does your customer feel after they buy from you? Whether you're a marketer, a business owner, or just an observer of human behavior, if you don't have a crystal clear answer to that question, well, that is exactly where you need to start. Think about it. And hey, while you do, drop a comment below and let me know what major brand should we break down and audit next. Thanks for tuning in and keep learning.